Sparkle looking sharp. Sparkle looking sharp there. I see it. Yeah.
That yellow one.
Yeah,
Yep.
looking sharp.
Yep. I like that yellow.
What
Don't
is?
have nothing sticking
Oh, you're looking good. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Oh, you know what? That was I was like, what was snapping and cracking before? Now I know what it is, Mile High.
Your
What's
microphone?
what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sharing Our Stories. I'm so glad you're here with us from the Mile High and all around. Joining us tonight. Thank you. This program, if you've never been here before, I'm sure you have. It's all about addiction and recovery. We bring in folks each week to talk about struggling with addiction, how they found their recovery, where they reached it, how they got to it, and where they are at in their life thus far. So when we say sharing our stories, it's sharing our stories to this moment right now. So I want to thank you for joining us for it, because we believe that every story that we share has an impact. Sometimes there's similarities, but no two stories are exactly the same. And I do believe that from hearing these things, you can reinforce your own recovery. You can help somebody to spark themselves in their recovery. Or if you're not understanding what somebody you know is going through, maybe you can learn a little bit about a friend or a family member and help support them in their recovery or in their struggles in addiction, and help them to find their recovery. So welcome. And we got a superstar.
Yes.
We got a superstar here.
Oh,
Superstar. When the numbers start flying up,
Uh-huh.
it's the lady in the middle right now.
Mhm.
So Nani, would you like to do we can do the long introduction, the short introduction, but I'll let you do the introducing.
Introduction.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Slim. Yeah. So today our guest is Sparkle Lindsay, who Sparkle is a huge member of the recovery community, just for a lot of different reasons. But I got to meet Sparkle because I took her peer recovery coaching classes with her, and she's a phenomenal instructor. She does a ton for peer recovery coaches in this community, is super supportive of everything that goes on, but also a member of COPA at some level too, right? Yep, COPA. She is a motivational speaker. She is an author. And today Sparkle is going to tell us her story. So I will pass it over to Sparkle.
I just want to say real quick before you go into it, having just met you, and I said this to you before we started, but you're how many years in your recovery now?
A woman in long-term recovery for 5 years, 11 months sober. I'm about 4 days from 6 years, y'all. 4 days from 6 years,
and
y'all.
you carry yourself with such a wisdom about recovery that I was like, you've been in recovery for 20 years. Like you've got a confidence and a wisdom in your recovery that I've been listening to that it is a pleasure to have you here. So now go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
I know that this 6 years is surreal for me. A lot of it is because, Tomas Hernandez, a lot of the people that are out here in 5280 paving the way for recovery. I used to look up to them, and I still do.
Yeah.
Because
Tomas, one of my favorite people. He used to be here all the time. Tomas, I haven't seen you since Christmas.
Yeah, that was the last time.
That's the last time, Tomas.
Tomas,
So
what you doing?
This weekend is Cinco de Mayo, Tomas. It's a reason to come visit, just a holiday. Okay.
So, I got a chance to watch a lot of, these people really do just go out there and make it happen. And I remember having the conversation with Tomas. I was probably maybe 2 years in, and he said, you know what, you're going to be magical at this thing called recovery. And I just remember that. And I was like, really? He said, yeah, really, you are. He said, you just keep moving forward and keep trusting in the process and, trusting in your family. And I didn't know it would be close to 6 years, but, we get so used to working on yourselves and being a better version of yourself daily that you don't lose sight of it, but it just humbles you every day to know you're making it, So my journey really, I started out as an executive for 3 big box retailers. Fast forward or even rewind back just a little bit more, I'm the oldest of 5 kids. My name's Sparkle Lindsay. I've got 3 brothers and a sister. We grew up in Colorado. We're natives of Colorado. I'm 40 years old. And I lived a life that was very, very put together. You know, my father was always there for me, my mother, my family. We stood together. And so it was really interesting for them, for my family members, when I ended up having an alcohol and addiction issue. My drugs of choice were cocaine, Molly, and alcohol. And I started this very late in my time. So during my college career, I played college basketball. And then from there, I got real sick. Woke up one morning and I couldn't walk, and ended up in a wheelchair for about 8 months or so.
Wow.
They said I'd never walk again. Lost a lot of weight, to only find out that I had been diagnosed with myasthenia gravis.
One more time.
Myasthenia gravis.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
Muscular inflammatory condition. So
Okay.
it's where your white blood cells attack your muscles. To then, you know, be told I'd never walk again. And if you know us Lindsays, put a chip on our shoulder when you say we can't do something.
Mhm.
So
You're gonna
I
do it.
retaught myself to walk and played 2 more years of college ball.
You were able to go back to
Oh,
playing
yeah, I went-
basketball
yeah.
after that 8 months.
I wasn't playing. I
Yeah.
wasn't playing.
Mhm.
It took a lot of determination, a lot of hard work.
Mhm.
But it was trauma.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
I don't recall myself ever crying about it until like 6 years ago after I had therapy. So I
Mhm.
held on to that
Mhm.
for a long time, just kind of put the H on my chest, handle it, and walk through it, you know? And then I jumped right into the corporate world and ended up being an HR executive for 15 years. And everything I did involved my determination, my resilience, and pushing through. But one thing I was doing was fixing everything for everyone.
Yeah, HR is a really tough gig.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when you get into the industry where people feel like you can do all, you
Mhm.
start to believe you can do it all.
Mhm.
But one thing I realized I couldn't do was me. I didn't know that it was me that needed actually the fixing.
Mhm.
And I went on for years really trying to be the best version of myself. I had great numbers. I did wonderful in the world, but then I started really getting more sick. Started overworking myself. I was showing up to things that I really should have just not showed up to, becoming that yes person, right?
Mhm.
And it really started to take a toll on me. You know, as it started to take a toll on me, I started realizing I was drinking more, partying more. I had money. I came out making 85,000 a year.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like I thought I was living what we call the American dream.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know, the American dream, that 9 to 5, you're corporate, you make the money you want to make.
Mhm. Do what you want to
Do
do.
what you want to
Mhm.
do, JD Rockefeller style, right?
Mhm.
Just
and
out there living that life until you
living the
find
life.
out that that's not the life.
Exactly. And then finding out you're stuck under this money umbrella where you got to go to work because you got to make the money because of the things you did buy and the stuff you did have. And now you have a habit of buying drugs and alcohol and everything else. So it was like I was going to work, I was paying for this, trying to sustain my addiction at the same time, but then working around the clock like crazy. And I didn't do horribly or anything. Most of the stuff I had, I was able to really prevail. I kept being promoted.
Makes it really easy to
Yeah.
keep drinking.
Mhm.
When you keep being told you're successful, you're good at this.
Yeah,
All your bad habits are signed off on.
they
Mhm.
are. So it was like I got the money to sustain it. We're doing it. We're doing well. The numbers are doing
Mhm.
great. Let's go. Right. And so then I had a few things that happened. Probably right around that time when I realized like my drinking was getting pretty bad. A lot of arguments. I ended up in jail a lot more times just because of my drinking.
Mhm.
And I realized there was an event that was happening, but I still thought I was okay.
Mhm.
I got the money, I'll pay my dues, I'll do whatever, I'm okay. We're just partying. This is what young people do, right? And then I remember coming home or coming to work one day, and I had no dealer drop off anything to me. Like I didn't have no bumps, I didn't have nothing. you know, just straight up, just me. And I was hungover as could be. I'll never forget this day. Clearly I won't once I finish this part. So I walk in and I'm talking to an employee that I haven't seen for a long time. And he finally walks in and he needed housing. And so I got the information hot off the press that we would be able to help him with housing. And when he walked in, I was so excited. So I walked up to him and he looked at me and then he said, I got to go to the bathroom. So I never got a chance to give him the good news. He hit my shoulder and walked off to the bathroom. So I went back to grab the piece of paper from my office. And as I was walking towards the bathroom, I got this horrible feeling in my stomach. It just felt like something was wrong. And I got to walk in and kept going, and I got closer and closer, and I waited patiently by the door, and I just said, something is just off, you know? And I opened the door and he shot himself. And I fainted. And when I woke up, when I came to, all I could think about was, when am I going to get my next hit? This is too much. It's too much. And so I got done that day. And I remember I called my aunt and I was really, really I felt awful. And I had been intoxicated, everything else. I remember her saying, you know, Sparkle, you just got to take it easy. You got to do it. And I'm like, it's just not fair. I remember being in the car. I just was completely it was like trauma again. And so I went through, they said, you got to go through the program. You got to get therapy. And, you know, for me, you know, most of us as Black people, we don't need no therapy. We just going to deal with it. So, of course, what did I do? Just deal with it, along with dealing with being in a wheelchair, along with dealing with all the other things. And I never talked about it.
Just stacks up.
Just stacked up. It was stacks on stacks on stacks. And it wasn't paper. It wasn't money. Okay. It was a whole bunch of trauma on top of everything. And I'm still trying to prevail through it. And then I started having all these nightmares. And I was like, something has to give. I gotta do something. And so I remember it. I just remember being like, okay, you can get through this. But at nighttime, after I would come down from my high, I would like be looking for ways to get help. But I didn't want to tell anybody I needed help because then I was like, they're going to fire me. Or I was so scared to say anything. And at the same time, it wasn't like the numbers were horrible. So I was just stuck. And then I was like, I'm supposed to be the person that has it together here, right? I'm supposed to be able to do this and that. And so I'd be looking at my stuff. And then all of a sudden, 6 o'clock in the morning would hit. Got to have my first drink, because then shakes were starting to happen, right? So now I'm like, okay, we're going to have a drink. We're going to make it. I'm going to have a bump. We're going to be good. I mean, it was a whole entire ritual throughout the entire day. Now I needed it to make it. And I was scared, okay? Like scared. And when I tell my family this story, or when they hear how scared I was, and then they hear the story, they're like, this is so scary, because I was really going through it by myself because I didn't want to tell anybody, right?
Did they have any idea at that time that?
I'm sure they did, because I would do things like drink a lot when I'd be at home. And then if we had a family thing, I wouldn't drink anything. But they knew I was drinking. They knew it. I would get on the phone and argue with some of them and then hang up. And then forget I talked to them. Or I'd have, you know, and a lot of them were just like, what the heck is going on with our sister? And even my aunts, all of them, they loved me, but they knew I had to go through it, you know, and I love them forever for that, because none of them tried to put their hands in it. They had to let me go, and they loved me enough to do that, you know, and as family members and siblings and all of those people who are allies, it's rough on them.
Yes.
And I continue to say that, because as an ally, as someone who deals with someone who's battling addiction, it is so hard not to lose yourself in them. And they didn't. My father didn't. My family didn't. They loved me. They cried with me, but they found a way to work on themselves too and walk with me. And I think we don't talk about this enough for the allies.
Yeah.
And how it breaks you down more, where you look like you using drugs because you're trying to do the same thing for them that they won't do for themselves. And so that part right there was really important. It's a really monumental point is that I had to be ready when I was ready. And they didn't understand it, but they soon got it. And that was the power from them that really helped me keep moving. Once that happened, I hadn't said anything yet about getting help. And then I remember getting called in to the office, and I was like, this is it. They about to fire me. Maybe I could just fire myself. You know, like I was thinking of every way to say, well, maybe they'll just send an email and let me go. So I walk in. I had a few shooters. I walked in, said, might as well be live for this one. And I walked in and everybody's smiling. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't look like a sad party at all. You know what I mean? So I go, I sit down, there's a white piece of paper sitting at the table. And I'm sitting down and I look up at my bosses and they said, turn it over. And so I turn it over. And it says 125K. You're being promoted. Everything inside of me was like, oh, this is a good way to sustain my addiction, y'all.
Yeah,
I'm good to go. Here we go. Let's do it.
It's all I thought is you've just been reinforced once again.
Here we go.
You came in here just ready to please help me. And instead you were like, let's go party.
And then I sat there for a minute and I had a pause. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to turn it down.
Come on now.
And I looked up at him and I looked at that paper. I said, maybe this is a good time to tell a joke and say I'm just playing. And instead, I said, I'm going to have to turn it down. And he said, you want me to hold your position? I said, please don't. Wow. I said, I feel like I am, here I go. I feel like I am yelling as loud as I can in a room full of people and no one's listening. I said, and if I do this, I'm writing a death sentence. I said, so I choose me. I'll choose me.
Oh my gosh.
And it's crazy because, you know, we're close to 6 years. I am. And that is still one of the most monumental times in my life. The day that I actually said, I choose me. And the more I think about all the things that I've done in my life, choosing me first by taking care of myself and filling my cup and being the best version of me has done nothing but allow me to illuminate my light to others so that they can see that this is what it's about. And so after that, I left them. I forgot what door I came through because at that point I was drunk. And so they had to tell me, I said, which door? Oh, this, okay. I walked through the door, go up to Black Hawk, end up in jail. Go crazy, go with it, drink, do whatever, end up there for about 12 days. And that's the moment when I get into jail and I promise you guys, I could not remember a number. I couldn't even remember my own number. And that's when I knew, here comes my higher power. It's time for me to have a conversation with them. It's time for me to talk to him. And he said, in my mind, I heard that voice say, no one's coming. So what you gonna do? And I knew then, I said, it's time to make a change. It's time for me to make a change. Time for me to get up out of here and be the sparkle I deserve to be. And from then on, I went on, I decided to go to treatment. I went to Peaks Recovery. First, I went to Parker Valley Hope.
Okay.
And I thought I was done there. Okay, so I got finished and I was like, yes. And when I get out of here, I'm going to have me a drink.
Recovered so I can finally drink again.
I know how to do this now. I've learned how to do it.
Yes. So I should be good now. That's what I said. I'm going to go try to find me a job. We're going to be great. And I was talking to my ex-fiance and he's like, we're going to go camping. We're going to get drunk. We're going to do it. And I was ready. And I gave a nice speech. I said, I will cherish this moment forever. Thank you guys for my recovery. And then I go walking out the door and there's this young girl who goes, are you Sparkle Lindsay? And I was like, huh? She said, yeah, your auntie. We got your next, we we got your next treatment center you're going to go to. And I was like, oh. I was like, so
you are not famous.
So I look over at my ex, and I look over at her, and I looked over, and okay, and I just went. And it was the best time I ever had with Peaks Recovery. Chris Burns and them over there, they gave me so much love, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to pay for any of this. I just knew, I guess I'm going. And kept going through the program with Chris Burns and them, and they found a way to get me a little scholarship, thank God. But they didn't tell me that. So I'm going through every day, you guys, and I'm working hard. I am working so hard on my recovery because I was like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back, and I get to the end and I'm graduating, and I keep coming to him. I'm like, okay, look, so what's the bill? Like, what does it cost? Like, what are we doing here? Because I don't got no money, and he's like, just keep showing up. Just keep doing your thing. And I said, okay. So we get to the end of my graduation, and he gives me a letter, and I'm like, here comes the bill. Here comes the bill. And I'm opening it up, and I'm flipping through it, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, yep, I do remember when I did that. That's about 40,000. Okay, I'll just, okay. You want me to do dishes? That's what and I get to the end, and it says $0 because your life is priceless. And then, and that right there, I said, you got to keep going. I was 7 months sober at that time. And then he said, we want you to come work for us. He said, but I think maybe Serenity Recovery Connection would be a good place for you to start. And at the time, it was Springs Recovery Connection. And that's where I met my mentor. She just passed. I'm sorry. She just passed probably 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
But she taught me everything that I needed to know about peer. And a few of us, before it was Serenity Recovery Connection with Kathy Plush and everything else, we took peer to the next level. And I learned everything about peer. I got to just come in. I got to take telephone recovery support calls, and I got to be a part of the recovery community and help people grow. And I fell in love with recovery coaching. And then I just started doing stuff like, we're going to the jails and we're going to figure this out. And we're going to the emergency room where my mentor created the emergency room pilot program in Colorado Springs. And she taught us everything. So Don Gillum is the reason why we have the emergency rooms here in Colorado. So we were the first to be able to do that. And then I knew peer is where I wanted to be. And ever since then, I left SRC, and I love them to death because they're so close to me, always. And then I moved on to learn about, how to billing Medicaid and this new peer support specialist stuff, where I learned my first endeavors with P2P resources. And then I even did a little bit with Hard Beauty from point to point. And I learned a lot about the industry and what I was wanting to do, what I didn't want to do, some of the things that were difficult for me to fathom. You leave a company and it feels bad, but you know that maybe there's something more or something greater. And in the meantime, working through my recovery at the same time, and I decided to go out and start my own business, Sparkle LLC, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
It's now 4.5 years old.
Yes.
And I have 850, 900 coaches across the globe right now that are rocking and rolling. And I am our CPF, a recovery coach professional facilitator, but I am a motivational keynote speaker and an author. And I call it a place to call home for my coaches. And the reason why is because my endeavors as a coach wasn't easy. Nothing's ever easy. And you got in this industry a lot of stuff going on, but I like that stuff because it challenges us to figure out who we are. And every day when I do a class, I know you had a chance to be in them, but
loved them. Yeah.
Every day I'm thinking of creative ways for people to get to know themselves and be better versions of themselves and be where their feet are, and this practice for me is it's a practice, and it's a becoming of me, and it is me. And I couldn't see my recovery without it. you know, and I couldn't see these different hardships then, but it's so crazy to watch the hardships and my art to being a great coach's coach and being an executive all start to come together. And I think, you know, you and I were talking about how we have these thoughts in our minds that are like, but is this really okay? And are we all right? And I feel in my heart that it's time to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And so being on here 4 days before my milestone of 6 years, I can feel my power, stepping into my power and growing more and more into my recovery every day. And a lot of it has come down to consistency and the power from within and getting to know who we are. And I think that we don't do that enough. We worry about what everybody else has to say about who we are, but why does that matter? What matters to us is it's us versus us. It's me versus me.
Yeah.
What do I want to do today to be a better me? No matter if it's recovery, no matter if it's better self-development, continuously being a lifelong learner is what we're aspiring to do. And whether we take it to the next level as recovery coaches, or you go and you become a CEO of a company or whatever, the sky's the limit. And I think that oftentimes we all sell ourselves short because we don't know what our potential is. As soon as we start to realize and move that trauma out of the way and start seeing through our lens, not other people's lens, our lens, and the gifts that were given to us, and use our intuition to be better, we rock it. We're a force to be reckoned with, you know? And I just say all the people who have been with me along the way, all of my legs to the table, that's my book coming out. They have all been there with me to realign me, align me into a better version of Sparkle, but also hold me accountable when I'm trying to get out of line, right?
That's hugely important. Having those people in your circle that are like, wait a minute, slow down.
Those that are like, so
Yeah.
where are you going?
Yeah.
Did you take the pause or are you just doing this? I'm
Mhm.
like, well, now that you say it that way, guess I'll go take a nap,
Mhm.
you know? So it's been a wonderful journey. And I've met a lot of you guys along the way, but I've also, it's felt like being able to come back home and, you know, and now live in Denver again, and being able to come back home and still be able to communicate with so many people around the world and also just in Denver alone and watch how we're expanding in recovery and the sober movement. Like we can take it to the next level.
And you can see it happening.
Yes.
It's
And then
happening.
us saying, I'm not okay. And people are like, what's up? Like
Mhm.
this is magical. And during this time, 2025, 2024, it's the revamping of systems. Everything may feel a little unsettled. I get it. It does. But we, all of us that are in recovery, we have a certain light to us. And all of us that are recovering from everything, we have a certain light to us. And that's the ability to realize that when chaos sets in, allow it to set in, but allow the dust to settle before you make any decisions. Because what is happening may not be really happening. And I think for a lot of us, we get into panic mode or we fear. But remember, faith over fear is here and it's not going anywhere. And as long as we stick together and we unify and we stay strong together, we will continue to grow, to be the best versions of ourselves. It's only when we decide to do it by ourselves that we lose sight of the mission. And I promise myself, and I promise everybody that's watching, I will not lose sight of the mission because I would not be who I am or where I'm at if I would have tried to do this by myself. And I never will, never could. And I know that this next chapter involves millions of people that will be doing it as well, hand in hand with me. And that's the only way it works.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you said, when chaos hits, let the dust settle before you make a decision about anything. And there could not be more truth to that. I mean, how many times when bad things are happening or just when a lot of things are happening, I know I have made decisions where I'm like, oh, if I had only
Just
had more
wait.
time to like just pause and reflect and like let things kind of happen, then I would not have made the same decisions.
No. And you also really realize that it's more so us going up with the chaos because of our anxiety. And we think or worry about something that hasn't even happened yet. So I say this, throw it up there. Let's see what happens. You can go with it, but I'm gonna wait till it settles because this is tiring, right?
Yeah.
I live life in chaos. Y'all see me, I was trying to work and do bumps and work. And I mean, come on. So when I see somebody who tells me or anybody that we should all run around and panic, I need to see what we are panicking for, because is it really happening? And if it doesn't, now I can make the arrangements to get into position. This is the reason why being consistent equals power, because I have consistency within me, which brings power in me. No one has the power to move me but me. And if I know that these 4 walls in here have power, that's half the battle. Whoever has power or has money or whatever, fine. But do you have power within? And most of us walk around like our power is because someone gave it to us. All you got to do is step out and take it, because it's yours, as long as you know how to own it. And as long as you know how to step into it. And as long as you know how to accept your greatness. And once that happens, can't nobody tell you different. Only you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Sparkle, I love your passion.
Man.
Your passion. Like I see why you have such success helping others become peer recovery coaches, because that passion goes right into it. That's what that gets somebody learning, get somebody engaged with you, so that they intake everything you're giving them.
Yeah,
and they can then
I'll
give
tell
it
y'all,
out.
they get me lifted for sure. I know you've been in there where a few of these things you start channeling, you say what you have to say because people need to hear it or they feel they want to hear it, and then before you know it, it just takes off like wildflowers. But the whole part is the love. The most powerful energy in the world for me, y'all, is love.
That's right.
And all I can say is that when people care, when someone gives a damn, it makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference.
And if someone can actually step into other people's shoes and unify each other, can't nobody take that away. It's only when we allow little things to get in that separate us that we're not a unit. And in the recovery world, there's so many of us growing forward. We just have to know there's always a place to land. And I call Sparkle LLC, my coach's hub, a place to call home. And I don't care where you went to get your training or who you were with, you always got a place with me, because no matter what, we'll need each other sometime or another.
Yeah.
You said your book is called All of My Legs to the Table.
So I got a few books coming out.
But this one was called All of My Legs to the Table.
This one's called Do You Have the Legs to Your Table?
Do you have the legs to your table?
And it's the subtitle is Creating Hope to Define Your Light.
Explain the title.
So for me, I realized that 4 legs for me were very important. I didn't want to be walking around with one leg talking about I got all the help I need. I felt that I needed a village. And so it started with me realizing that my home life was not as great as I thought it was. Although I was in a house and living there and everything else, I was having arguments with my ex so much that I would just take a shower, sleep in my car, and get dressed in my car. So technically, it wasn't very good. So that I wouldn't go to jail, from our arguing. Then I also started noticing, so H for hope is home, my home, where I'm at. And I realized that most of us don't have, or a lot of us right now are battling not having a roof over our head, a solid roof over our head where we could sleep, we can rest peacefully.
And you can't sleep and rest peacefully if you're stressed out about paying to sleep and rest peacefully.
Exactly. So what does that look like? Do we have this type of environment? And I sit down with a lot of people and ask them this, because how are you going to coach someone, but you don't have that? You don't have a place to be. So that means like you're going to be helping other people get a place before you. We can't give away something we don't have. Whether you're a coach or you're a human in general, if you're giving away everything and you have nothing, we got to try to make it make sense, and we can't. So home, right? You got food. Do you have those things? But then operations of wellness. Okay. And that is, do you have doctors? Do you have dentists? Do you need therapy? Do you need a psychiatrist? Do you need some sort of help? Most of us don't like to go to the doctors. Most of us don't like to go to the dentist. Most of us are afraid. But in our reality, how do you stay on top of your maintenance if you're not going to get maintenance? So a lot of us come out. I came out and my teeth were hurting like crazy, all that drinking I was doing, all the sugar and the coffee. And so my first best horrible self-care experience for dentist was intense. But I said, wait a minute, I got to show these pearly whites. I got to make sure they're looking right, right? So do we have that? And then you have your purpose. If we don't have purpose, you know, and sometimes it takes us a minute to learn our purpose, right? So what are we doing to get there? Is it more education, right? Can you get transportation to get where you need to get to make the money you need to make to start being productive in your society? If not, then we're missing a leg. Okay, that means we've got to help as coaches to find these legs so that these people can say, hey, I got my purpose. I'm going to the dentist. I got a place to sleep and I can actually think. And then lastly is engagement. And with engagement comes, do I have a coach? Do I have a sponsor? Do I have a mentor? I have an entrepreneur coach. I have everything you can think of that makes sure that I have my base in life. And so I ask the question to everybody in the world out here, because the book is not written just for recovery. Do you have the legs to your table? If you're building a business, does the business have legs? Because if you're building a business with no legs, you're going to fall right through it. The point of the matter is, what are the basics to what we're doing? And it took me a long time to release this book because it's getting ready to be released here in probably the next 6 months. But I wanted to make sure that I did it for positive transformation. For anybody who needs to go back to the basics. It may sound basic, but it is the main thing that we like to walk over and not have, and then have nothing to fall back on. I refuse to do that. And I tell everybody, a good coach has a great coach behind them. And when you're humble every day and you realize that there's other people that you can communicate with and have a good balance with to become a well-oiled machine, that is what we deserve. But oftentimes we just think we should do it on our own. So this book is now going to be a live curriculum, and it will also be a series of books. And I am so excited to roll it out and bring everybody back to take this so we know we got the basics and we feeling good. Because in the end, whether we're coaching great or whatever that is, if we're not right with us, it doesn't make any sense anyway.
Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years? Because girl,
Man.
woman, queen, I mean, lady in charge around here.
Yes.
I mean, power mover. Where do you? I mean, for all these things that you are, you know, where do you have a long-term goal that you're looking at?
You know, the long-term goal is to make sure that this hub is big enough for everybody to be in it. And then really and truly to live a healthy life. I would say out of everything, continue being in the present moment.
I thought she was going to say governor, y'all. And I'm not even exaggerating or joking. When I was like 5-10 years, she was going to be like governor of Colorado. I thought you knew, Sam. Because I'm not even joking. Like, that's for real.
Someone else said that, by the way.
I'm like,
you know, I really see myself speaking love and light and honesty and truth into everyone. I see this, and I also see people using me as a vessel for whatever they're needing. I see myself helping create a movement, and I'm not playing. I am not playing when it comes to us doing well and us owning it. We just been down, all of us. It's not even about even just being in recovery. We've been down. And we got to pick ourselves up, and we got to pick each other up, because there's a big part of this that's going to help this movement keep going. And if we falter, it won't. But we got enough people out here that know what it takes for us to get up here, step into our power, and start speaking. And we got to be able to, I feel like, in my life, you know how you have people who are just picked to do certain things. And I feel like things are moving very quickly for me. And so I've just been jumping in God's lap, and I'm just letting him take me where I got to go.
I hear that.
But one of the biggest moments I can say is the present moment and the vivid things that are happening right now, and being aware and mindful of stuff that's happening, because often we are so busy and so involved with ourselves,
Yeah.
that we are not giving ourselves enough time to be in somebody else's shoes.
Mhm.
For once, ask
Mhm.
somebody a question and lose yourself in their story.
That's right.
Feel their chills the way they feel their chills. You know, understand that like we were built for so much more. And we as a people, as a human race, step to the plate. It's time. We have creativity. We have everything you can think of in 2025. Go get some.
People aren't willing to put in the work is what I've noticed in life. And I'm seeing a change though. But loving people takes work.
Oh, yeah.
Openly loving folks, openly being somebody who doesn't judge, somebody who doesn't turn your back to folks, somebody that wants to actually help folks takes work. You know, I've been very blessed in my current career where I get to think about these things every day, and I get it's a focus for me every day. So, you know, I've come up with lots of different things where I look at a door when I'm going to enter a new place and go, before I walk through this door, I got to come in there with a positive attitude. I got to bring that through this door. This door represents that change in my mind frame. But that takes work. That takes work. That until I actually started having that thought, and that's in the last year, until I started having that thought, I'm going through the door just like anybody else does on a daily basis. We come in with our attitude. I'm mad behind the wheel. I'm angry at everything. Everybody's doing me wrong. Everything costs too much. This line is too long. You're in my way. You took the last something to something that I wanted on the shelf. Everything's negative. And it's easy to go that route. It's easy for us. The loving, the positivity, that's work. That takes work. And a lot of people aren't ready to do that work, but I see it changing. I see what you're talking about happening. That love that this world needs, it's right there. We just got to keep reminding each other. We got to keep being just like you, being enthusiastic with our passion to spread to other people. Hey, look, let's create some joy on this planet. Let's work to make our lives better on this planet.
Well, and here's the thing, you know, my daddy, he always says it, and he says a lot of things, but one thing I really love, I love everything my father says and my mama, but you came into this world by yourself. You're going to leave by yourself. So you might want to get to know yourself. And I remember him saying that to me when I was about a year sober. And now it's crazy because everything you guys were talking about and all of this stuff, it's like I never even really have had time to look at like what it will be or where it's going. I just know what I feel right now. And I know that in my intuition, if I just keep moving forward and get to know myself better, I will unbreak these blockages I have and clear the trauma I have. And it then becomes more empathetic than anything. It's not superficial bullshit. It's real shit. And when you start getting there, that's when power is you, right? Because I think a lot of us don't realize that because we don't allow it to transpire. Most times we get sober, we're okay, and then we just keep it moving and that's what it is. No, there's so much more. The problem is, or the question is, are you willing to seek to find it? Once we're willing to seek to find it and seek to understand why we need it and get underneath it, we can become better people, and not better people for everybody else, better people for us. And, you know, you said it, when you come into work every day, the first thing I ask, it's in my book, Being a Better Me for Me, right? Which is on Amazon. And the first thing I said is before you walk into anywhere and you wake up in the morning, you meet yourself where you're at. Check in with yourself daily. How do you feel today? Get a feelings list. That stuff's not corny. That's real. If you can identify with your feelings and know that their emotions are temporary, not permanent, then you'll be ready for the next one. But being able to identify with how we feel helps us step into our power and say, yes, I'm going to do today, or no, I'm not. So that anybody else that comes into our presence has an opportunity to know that they're getting what you wanted to give them. And if you can't give them that, don't show up. It's okay. Let them know I'm not okay today. I need to take a second. And if they can see that and you can step into your truth and say it, they will respect you because you're better for it. I think so many times we try to force ourselves into this stuff. Well, I got to go do this. Or you don't got to or have to do nothing. We got choices that say whether or not we're ready to start the day. And we're human just like anybody else is. You know, so meeting ourselves where we're at helps us really set the tone of the room we're in. And it helps us set the tone if we ain't leaving our room for the day either. We go take a few naps or sleep in, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I was.
Oh, no, I was looking at something on the screen there. My apologies.
I don't know why it distracted me.
My apologies.
So one of the things that you talked about too, you said once you were able to clear some of that trauma that you had, that was that one of the biggest parts of your healing process?
Oh, absolutely. I think the trauma part dang near threw me into like a stroke. Okay. Like y'all heard all that trauma, but there was even more because I was battling autoimmune. All that trauma up here in the frontal lobe. Yeah. I know why I was sick. Yeah. I mean, I was making myself sick by not working through this stuff. I was holding it. I was a big ball. It took me 13 years to cry. I hadn't cried for 13 years and it threw me into literally stroke mode.
Yeah. That's carrying a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Oh yeah. That's like,
because you've cried twice today. And that's a good thing. I'm a crier. I'm a crier. Straight up. I'm a crier. I was crying. I cried several times last week myself because I was sharing some of my struggles. And if you don't let it out,
what you doing?
And you said 13 years without crying.
Your body just holds on.
It holds on because it's
like
like
your back hurt.
And I was playing sports and not able to walk.
Your body hurt. Yeah, your body hurt.
And so now,
stress out.
Crying so easily and just it feels so great because we understand that it's okay to feel, right? But for a long time, I was masking it. And so once I started working through the trauma, I have had a wonderful therapist.
Did you feel like you were an angry person before?
You know what? I wouldn't say angry, but I had no, because we're going to win. Like I had that's why I always say, for a lot of people, they say, how's your resilience story? And I'm like, my resilience almost killed me. Because whenever something would happen to me, I would just ignore it and be like, we're going to win though. Like my mentality was that intense. And even now, even in my recovery, I have to take a step back because I started to realize what my root addictions were.
I can see one.
And my root addiction was perfectionism.
And kind of a success.
And the ability to feel like I wasn't good enough. Okay. And then workaholism. Okay. So let me tell y'all. So here we go. I'm 5 years in. 5 years, 9 months in, and I'm like, but I was like, oh gosh.
You got to remember to take vacations.
Check it out. Yeah. I said, oh gosh, here it comes.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. This is the moment I've been waiting for. And the reason why is because the other stuff is the symptom. So when I was able to identify with it, I was like, and schedule change and vacation here and vacation here and vacation here. You not going back there because that's where I was.
It's a different kind of addiction.
Same coin, different side.
Yes. And if you're not careful, especially running your own business and stuff, it'll creep up on you. And then
I'm so glad you see that because I was like, this girl is a success. But that success comes with a passion. And that passion is kind of an addiction that I see. But you're aware of it, so
absolutely. And where this helped tell me about it. Where it hit me is, I've been doing a lot of quantum energy work with my father. And so what this does is it brings up all these things, these feelings that you normally don't know you have because it's clearing your chakras. And so we're sitting in there and I was like talking to him and he's doing the energy work on me. And all of a sudden I was like, Dad, I think I have a problem. And he's looking at me like, okay. I said, I think I have a problem with working. And he was like, hallelujah. He said, and I've been waiting for it. 3, 2, 1. And I love it because it's that whole constant maintenance of figuring out who you are. And when it finally comes and you're ready to deal with it, you just do it, you know? And to me, it was like, oh my gosh, I unraveled something else,
Mhm.
right? Like you unravel something else and then you're like, okay, there's so much more.
You have stopped
You
me
know?
in my tracks multiple times. I wrote this earlier where that I did not expect that stopped me in my tracks, but you've done it now more than once.
It was so much
It's
more.
dope.
I
It's
did. I
dope.
started looking, I was like, okay,
Because to know that, like,
Workaholics Anonymous. Then,
mhm.
y'all, I'm not even playing. I also said, Miss Lindsay, you have done a wonderful job building your business. When you gonna let some people in it? I was like, because right now, what am I doing? I'm being in my business. I'm not running my business. So I went and jumped myself in a class for blind spots so that I can start to put people in the business. And it has been beautiful because an entrepreneur story, right? My entrepreneur story is wild along with sobriety. And it can only go as fast or slow as my sobriety. So if the workaholism is in the way, then the business isn't moving. Right now, I'm just doing all this work and I'm just glorified employee for myself, right? That's not what I built this for. I built it to be an entrepreneur and built the business and a platform for people to grow in it. We got to get busy with that. But in that time, I got to get out of the way. And with the workaholism and putting everything up, those are the walls that are getting in the way of the business. And it's time to move on out the way and trust that people are probably going to mess up all kinds of stuff. And that's okay.
And that's
you
okay.
did it too. And that's all right.
And it's a great way for people to learn
Yes.
when you get to train them and they get to be a part of something beautiful that you created.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I really want to hear Mayor Lindsay and Governor Lindsay. These are things that I want, but at the
I
same
vote for
time, because
you.
I'm hearing you and I'm just
Would you
like, I
vote for
want
me?
these
Vote for you.
things.
I would.
Yeah, I want these
would.
things now. I want you start at city council. That's how you work your way up.
Yeah, I
you know,
heard this little
You
thing.
start the
'cause-
city council and you
Yep.
just work your way up. You'd be surprised. Yeah, I remember city council members when I was growing up in San Francisco. Ended up what is it? The house seat, whatever.
Yeah,
What's her name?
yeah.
Pelosi. She was at my high school as a little city council person,
Right.
hanging outside,
Nice.
passing out
Yes.
flyers to the parents. All right, and then she ended up, next to the White House.
I
So
mean,
I could see that. But here's my thing, Governor Lindsay, is we need you in recovery too.
Yes.
All right. So I don't know if I want you to be Governor Lindsay.
Here's the thing. Someone asked me about that. They said, is there a time when does it make you scared? It makes it. I had this moment probably in January where I was like, this is bigger than me. And recovery is always where I will be. That's the only way I can do what I'm doing, But I've gotten so many other people from so many other realms of coaching and leaders and everything else. And I'm like, okay, we're going to open this up and it's going to be fine. But my major base will always be my recovery community because that's where we're made. We're built in this realm where we get to be around people who understand us. You know what I mean? And this part is so surreal to me, but I do realize, people talk about the governor stuff and things like that. And I thought a lot about like, wow, they have like Run for Recovery. And I'd love to speak and do that. This is my whole jam. And being able to speak that through my heart and speak my truth, speak about my recovery, my mental health, all of the above. I think it's only a matter of time till it will appear as it should, And so with that is the reason why the business has to transpire on its own and without me, because I am an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur comes other people using the platform to be successful. And that's what I want. I want people to be able to have these conversations we're having and think they'll be governor or feel that they will be governor or mayor one day, right? We got to create that so people can see that it's possible.
Well, the first thing that I had written down about you for coming in today was motivational speaker.
Yes.
And I mean, I've heard your name many times. This is the first time that we've met in person.
It's true.
And you motivationally spoke your way into the governor's seat with me. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
As long as you got one, you're forced to be reckoned with.
That's real talk.
Well, she said mayor, so I don't know. No,
you
I'm
are
just-
truly well. You got you go mayor and then governor. You know,
Yeah,
you work
you gotta-
these steps,
gotta do it.
steps. You know, and then
y'all see that campaign.
governor,
We
senator,
own it.
president. It's how it go. Governor,
love
senator,
it.
president. You know,
Yeah, you.
it's a 20 about a 20-year plan. We in it.
Yeah,
We in it.
you-
All right. You
Okay,
said you
okay.
just turned 40, right?
Uh-huh.
60-year-old president.
That's it.
Bam, bam.
There it is. We gonna
That's-
manifest it. Let's
That's
put it-
how it go. So yeah, you heard it here first.
Yeah, I heard
but
it first.
but seriously, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Mhm.
And
Oh, thank you.
having met you, I know why I've heard your name so many times now. Truly listening to you speak and your passion and what you have to share, and all the ways that you've helped so many people in their recovery and so many people that you've taught in their recovery. Just thank you. You're a
Thank
blessing.
you,
You're a
guys.
blessing. And I truly believe that God has purpose for everybody. He has a plan in your life, and He works it from way back in the day. And I didn't think this until recently in life,
He
where
does.
I see He working from way back in the day, and He planned everything, including the struggles that you went through, so that you be right here today doing what you do. And amen. I can't wait to see you, Governor Lindsay.
He
I
said,
just, you know,
if it's written, let it be done. That's what he
yeah,
said.
whatever it is,
Do it.
I know that you're going to continue to impact lives in recovery, and it's a pleasure to have made the acquaintance and met you today.
Well,
So-
I'm glad I got to come in here. With
Thank
both
you so much for
guys.
being
You
here,
know, it's
Sparkle.
always
Please.
good to
Yes,
spend
thank
some
you.
time,
Please,
talk a little bit. You know,
please, please. We're going to be bringing this program back to the radio, and when we get it back to the radio, also I'm going to ask for you to come
Oh,
on in,
absolutely.
and we're going to do it all
Yeah,
again.
you guys know I'm here.
Yeah.
Come
Always
on.
here.
Thank
One
you.
thing I can tell you is anything that involves our town and what we got going
That's what
on
I'm
and
saying.
other, other towns too,
Mhm.
across the world, whatever. I think it's just always good to have some good conversation,
Mhm.
some good home conversation that we used to have around the tables with our families,
Mhm.
and those that didn't come have some too. I think it's not every day. I think that my thought process in having everybody be able to come and hang out and chill is just like how we are with our family. There's like
Mhm.
60 of us, so we always
Yeah,
got
big
we always
family.
got somebody coming in to chillax, and we may not know them, and then we get to know them,
That's
and
nice.
it's just family, and it's love, So
Yeah.
thank you guys so much.
Trying to
for
spread
having
a
me.
lot of that. Oh,
Oh, we
Yeah,
spreading
Sparkle.
it, y'all.
Yes.
We ain't playing with the love.
come on now.
Yeah.
Sparkle, thank you for being
also,
here.
congrats on coming up on 6
Oh,
years.
here we go, Sunday,
Yes.
y'all.
Woo.
Sunday, here we go. Give me some of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so
That's so
excited.
great.
I'm
Celebrate.
so honored. You
Celebrate
know what I
every
mean?
day. Celebrate every day,
Absolutely.
and especially this Sunday.
Yes.
Our guest has been Sparkle Lindsay, Sparkle LLC. The website, Sparkle LLC.
SparkleLindsay.com.
That's
Mhm.
I do have it here.
Yep.
I feel
SparkleLindsay.com.
slim.
Yeah,
Slim.
Check it
Come on.
out.
SparkleLindsay.com, and that's LINDSAY
Mhm.
for Lindsay. All right,
Thank you.
SparkleLindsay.com. Slide on through, and thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Everybody join us again right here. And if you'd like to be a guest on Sharing Our Stories, just hit us up right in the messages on here or on our Facebook page in the messages. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
This is Sparkle Lindsay here. My name is Slim Nani Al Jalil, and thank you so much for being here
See
for
y'all
sharing our
later.
stories.